Hey, what's up? Welcome to this new video. This one is paper 1 of November 2004 for A-level math. Now with that being said, obviously let's move on to question number 1. So here we have to find the coefficient of x in this expansion. So now what does it mean? For example, when I have ax, so I need to find the value of a for the term in x. So let's do one by one. So here we have 3x minus 2 over x power 5. Now usually how would you expand this? You will have 5 combination something we don't know yet, and the first term is 3x, and then here you will have minus 2 over x. Here we have n, this will have to be n as well, and here we have 5 minus n. Now we have to choose n such that the whole expansion will give something in x, because that is the only thing we care about in this question. Again, this is done by trial and error, but again, so from experience you can do this in your head and then choose the value of n. So that will be 5, choose something, and you have 3x, and here we have minus 2 over x. So if you want x to be the term we need this to be 3. So this will have to be 5 minus 3, that have to be 2. This will have to be 2. Okay, so this will be the value of n that we'll be choosing. So choosing n to be 2, so that when we expand this, we'll have something in x. So one by one. Again, how do I know this? It is by trial and error, step by step thinking, or you can just expand the whole thing as well to find the term in x. It is up to you. 5 choose 2, that should be 10. That will be 27x cubed. That will be 4 over x squared. Simplify. This and this will cancel out, so you will have what? 10 times 27 times 4. That should be 1080x. But your answer will be just 1080, because that is exactly what we are looking for the coefficient of x, which is 1080 as your answer for this question. Now in this question, part 1, we have to find the sum of the first 10 terms of this geometric progression. So the sum of the first 10 terms of this progression. So let's see. We have 81, 54, 36. What is the common ratio? R will be the value of 54 divided by the first term. 54 divided by 81, that should be 2 over 3. So this is the value of R. Now we also know the value of A, which is the first term, is 81. Right. So now we can use this to find the value of the sum of the first 10 term. That should be A, which is 81, times 1 minus R, which is 2 over 3, power n, which is 10, over the value of 1 minus R, which is 2 over 3. Again, this is a formula given to you in your list. You don't need to memorize that. However, you need to know how to find the value of R, for example. So you have to know that R is equal to, for example, here we have 3 terms. We can either do R, second term divided by the previous term, or you can do 36 divided by the previous term. So this is exactly what you kind of have to know, or kind of realize that we can also find R using these terms. If you don't know, no worries, you can always revert back to your formula, which is the n term. For example, it is given to you by a r n minus 1. From this we can simply find R. We know the first term is equal to 81, so that will be 81. Here we have R, and then we can say second term is 54, so second term is 54, so we can write 54 is the second term equal to 81 times R. N is 2, second term is 2, minus 1 is 1. So R will be 54 divided by 81, which is going to give you 2 over 3 as well. So again, 2 methods of finding the value of R, which is the first thing we need to do in this question. Now, moving on. Sum of the first 10 term, we just have to solve this. That will be 1 minus 2 over 3 power 10 times 81 divided by 1 minus 2 over 3. That will be 238.786. That will be what? 239, correct? 237. Now for part 2, we have to find the sum of all the terms in this arithmetic progression. Now as you can see, this is the progression that we have. We realize the value of A, which is the first term, is 180. Right. Now what is the common difference? As you can see, it will be 175 minus 180. What is that? 175 minus 180. that will be minus 5. So the value of d will be minus 5. Now we have to know how many terms do we have in this progression. So we know that the last term, so let's call the last term, is equal to 25. So what is the termth of 25? So replace, we know that the nth term is given to you by the formula, which is a plus n, sorry, it is not, let me write this down because we might forget. It is good actually. So the nth term, that will be a plus n minus 1 times d for your arithmetic progression. So you kind of have to know this, but again, it is given to you on your list of formulas as well. You don't need to memorize. So this have to be 25. So we have to find the termth of this when the value is 25. So a is given to you by 180 plus n minus 1 times d, that will be minus 5, and that should be 25. So let's see what do we have. So first thing first, we can send this over here. You will have, so here we have this for now, and that should be 25 minus 180, that should be minus 155, right? And then n minus 1 should be 155 divided by, that should be 31. So finally n has to be 32. So we realize that we have 32 terms in this progression. Now with that knowledge, we can find the sum of the 32 terms in this progression. Now we understand the sum of the first n term is given to you by what formula? We have to know it is half times n, and then we have 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Right, so simplify or replace back in your formula. Half is half, n is 32, 2a is 180, plus n minus 1 is 32 minus 1 is 31, times d will be minus 5. So let's see what happens. So let's do the inside first. You have 2 times 180 plus 31 times minus 5, that should be 205, times 32 divided by 2, that should be 3280 as a sum of all the terms, or all the 32 terms of this progression. And that will be a question in relation to series. So now in this question, we have what? AC is an arc of a circle. This is the arc of a circle. Great. The center is O and the radius is 6. This is also the value of 6 because it is the radius of that arc of that circle, right? Of that sector. Now, the line BC is perpendicular to OC. This is vertical to OC. Now, OAB is a straight line, so OAB is a straight line. Good to know. Now, the angle AOC is this. Okay, as we can see clearly. We have to find the area of the shaded region, giving your answer in terms of pi and root 3. So, for example, we have to give the exact value of this area. Now, by observation, how would you find this area? You can see that we'll have to first find the area of the whole thing. So, part 1, we have to find the area of triangle OBC. Then we have to minus what? We have to minus the area that we do not want. That will be number 2, area of sector OAC. Right? So part 1, part 2. Now part 1, how would you find the area of this triangle? So very easy. We can use a few things. But in this case, since we have a right angle triangle, so right angle triangle, right? We can use half times base and times the perpendicular height. Now half is half, base we know it is 6, and we have to find the value of the height. Now how would you find the height? Now you can see we can use SOHCAHTOA to find the height. We have the angle here, this is 90, this will be my A side. I need to find the opposite side. We have to use tan. So tan of 1 over 3 will be the opposite side, which is the height, over the A side, which is 6. So height will be 6 tan 1 over 3 pi. So here we have to use radians. So 6 tan pi over 3. That should be the value of 10.39. Right. Now replace back in here to find the area. Half times base and times height. So half times 6 times 10.39, that should be 31.17 for the area of the whole triangle. Now, we have to minus the area of this one. Now, I guess the thing here is, the trick is we have to provide the exact value again, so I cannot provide this decimal place. So let me write this down again. How can I find this? So now I realize that pi is 180 divided by 3, that is 60. Now what is tan of 60? So let's check. Tan of 60 is the value of this. So we have to use degrees, for example. 1.72, it is root of 2. No, it is root of 3. Exactly. So tan of 60, that will be root of 3. Now you may ask me, how do I know this value? Is because I would say through practice and through experience, you actually do have to know a few angles by heart. I mean, this is my preference, right? You have to know the angle 30, 45, and 60. So I will highly recommend you guys memorize those angles by heart, because it may come in handy in these kind of questions. So tan of 60 will be root 3. So I realized that we can rewrite this as half times 6 times 6 root 3. That will be 3. 3 times 6 will be 18 root 3. So that will be the area of the triangle in part 1. Now for part 2, what is the area of the sector? That will be this one. That should be half r square, 36, and the angle will be 1 over 3 pi. Simplify, that should be 2, that should be 18, 3, that should be 6. So 18 divided by 3, 6, that should be 6 pi. So finally, the area that we are trying to find is the big thing, is 18 root 3 minus 6 pi. Again, this is given by the answers in terms of pi and root 3. That should be centimeters square, obviously, for your value of your area. And that will be a question in relation to circular measure. Now in this question, we have to sketch and label this on the same diagram, the graph of this and the graph of this, for the interval of 0 and pi. Now one by one, let's begin with this. So we have y equal to 2 sine of x. Now, as always, whenever we have to sketch a graph, use a table of values, right? So here we have the x value and the y value. So here we have from 0 till pi, I begin with 0. Now, what is the interval that I will choose? Now, because the coefficient of x is 1, I will choose 90 divided by 1, that is 90, which is pi by 2. So plus 90, that should be pi. Replace back in the equation, you have 2 sine of pi. So 0 first, 2 sine of 0, that should be 0. Then we have 2 sine of pi by 2, that should be 2. And then 2 sine of pi 180, that should be 0. As you can see, that will be my graph for this one. Now let's move on with the other one. So we have what? We have y is equal to cos 2x. This is my x values and my y values. Again, I will begin with 0. Now, what are the intervals I can choose? Because I have the value here is 2, I will take 90 divided by 2, that will be 45, which is pi by 4. Pi by 4 again, excuse me, and that should be pi by 2. Pi by 4 again, that should be 135, that should be 3 pi over 4, and finally, that should be pi. Right? We increase by 45, 45, 45 degrees, which is pi by 4 radians. Now, finding the corresponding values of x, pretty easy. First one, cos of 0, that should be 1. Here we have cos of 2 times 45, cos of 90, that should be 0. Here we have 90, so cos of 180, that should be minus 1. And here we have 135, so times 2 will be 270, so cos of 270, that should be 0 as well. And cos of 360, that should be 1. Okay, great. So now we can see we have a few values over here. We can sketch the graph. This is the y-axis. Of course, you will be using a ruler. Don't do that. So you have this over here, right? So here we have y. Here we have the values of x. So here I have 0. Let's say here we have pi by 4, pi by 2, 3 pi by 4, and finally pi. Now for the first one here, I will have 0. Let's say my value of 1 is here, value of 2 is here, 1, minus 1 is here, minus 2 is here. For example, right? Just to help us sketch this graph. Now, first one is 0, 0. And we have pi by 2 is 2. That should be somewhere over here. And then we have, this will be 0 again. As you can see, here will be our graph for the first one. Should be something like this. Right. I guess you can try better, make it more smooth, but that should be my graph for y equal to 2 sine x. The next one, we have cos 2x. So first one, 0, 1. That should be here. That should be here. This. That should be here. Here. So this will be 0 and this should be 1. My apologies. That should be somewhere over here. So we have this. Something like this. Okay, and label this as y equal to cos 2x. Okay, and that will be done for question part 1. Again, pretty easy. Whenever you have to sketch a graph for your trigonometric functions, always proceed with the table of values. And as you can see, I did step by step of how did I choose my intervals so I can work with the exact values on the graph. And you can see I will have both on the same graph, as well as you have to always label your graph. Okay, that will be part 1 of the question. Now for part 2, we have to state the number of solutions of the equation. So pretty easy. State the number of solutions. You can see they meet at 2 points. They will have 2 solutions. And that will be your question in regards to trigonometry. Now for this question, the equation of a curve is given to you by this, and the equation of a line is given to you by this. The curve and the line intersect at the point A and B. Now intersect means they meet or cut or join each other. Now we do understand that whenever we see intersection, we will have to solve a simultaneous equation. Now, equation number 1 is given to you by this. Equation number 2 is given to you by this. Now here you can see you can make y become the subject pretty easily. So y will be 9 minus 3x. So now we have y, here we have y. We can substitute in each other. You will have, on one side you will have x squared minus 4x plus 7 equal to y. Now y is also equal to 9 minus 3x. So now we have this equation to solve. Let's see what can we do. First, let's send everything to one side. You will have x squared. So minus 4 plus 3, that should be minus 1. And then plus 7 minus 2 will be minus 2. So minus 9 equal to minus 2. So now in this case, we just have to, we can use factorization to see what happens. That will be x times x. 2 is 2 times 1. Minus 1 is simply minus 2 plus 1, right? So x will have to be the value of 2. X will be minus 1. Now, for when x equal to 2, what is the value of y? Y will be 9 minus 3 times 2 is 6. 9 minus 6 will be 3. And y will be what? 9 minus 3 times minus 1. So 9 plus 3 is equal to 12. So point A will be given to you by this one, minus 1, 12. And point B is 2, 3. Now again, why did I choose A to be this one and B to be this one? It's very simple. In the order of the alphabets, we understand that A comes before B, right? And because minus 1 comes before 2, we will choose in this order, if that makes sense. Now, here again, we don't need to find A or B. We just have to find the midpoint of AB. So the midpoint will have to be what? Pretty easy. x1 plus x2. So 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 will be divided by 2. And then we'll have 3 plus this will be 15 divided by 2. So the midpoint M is actually equal to half. And this will be simply 7.5, which is 7.5. Same thing as this. So this is shown as required for part 1 of the question. Now for part 2, we have to find the points, the coordinates of the point Q on the curve at which the tangent is in the same direction to the line this. So for example, we just have to understand something here. For example, I have a curve here. Let's say my curve is something like this, right? First thing. Now, I have to find the point Q on the curve at which the tangent is in the same direction to this. So let's say my point is here, and I have to find, this is called Q, I have to find this point where my tangent, right, is in the same direction as this line. So what does it mean when two lines are in the same direction? It means that they are parallel and they have the same gradient. Now this line is equal to y equal to minus 3x plus 9, and by comparison of y equal to mx plus c, we realize that these two, which is m, is equal to minus 3. So the gradient have to be minus 3. So which means the concept behind this question is I have to find the point Q such that my tangent here has gradient of minus 3. Now we understand that the gradient is what? The gradient is simply dy by dx. Right. So now let's find dy by dx first. So y is equal to this for the curve. So dy by dx will be 2x minus 4. This will be dy by dx. Now we know that at this point we need the gradient to be equal to minus 3 because it needs to be parallel to the line. Now 2x have to be minus 3 plus 4 is 1. X will be the value of half. Right. Now from this point on, we understand that to find y, we simply replace back in the main equation here. That will be what? 0.5 square minus 4 times 0.5 minus plus 7. That should be 5.25. So the point Q have to be 0.5 and then 5.25. So the main concept behind this question is we have to understand that because we need the tangent to be in the same direction as the line is. Now by same direction, we understand the gradient have to be the same. So we first find the gradient of the line. It is equal to minus 3. Now we understand that at the point Q, we also require that line or that tangent to have the same gradient. Now tangent, we understand the gradient is equal to dy by dx, right? We have to know this. And now dy by dx is found by this equation. We have this. We know that the gradient have to be minus 3. And then equate, solve x, and then find the value of y. That will be part 2 of the question. Now for part 3, we have to find the distance mq. So pretty easy. Since we know m is 0.5 and we have the value of 7.5. Now you can just do this by observation. For example, I have this. 0.5 is here. The first point is 0.5, 5.25 will be somewhere over here. This is my point Q. Now here m have 0.5 again, same x value, and 7.5 will be vertically upwards here, 7.5. So what is the distance? It will be this difference, right? So this will be 7.5 minus 5.25. That should be 2.25. Distance will be 2.25. That will be units, obviously. Now again, you don't need to do this. You can always revert back to using the formula, which is what? Which is distance mq have to be root of. So first we can do x2 minus x1. That will be 0 square. And then this minus this. So 7.5 minus 5.25. 7.5 minus 5.25, that should be 2.25 square. That will be simply root of 2.25 square. That should be 2.25 as your answer. Okay, that will be this question that we have in relations to quadratics. I think solving simultaneous equations and then also a bit of differentiation in this case. Now here we have a function question. So f of x is given to you by this, or trigonometry as well. It is defined for the domain of x between 0 and pi, which is the x values we can take only between 0 and 180 degrees. Now it is up to you. You can always work with pi or degrees, and at the end you can revert back to radians for your answers. Now part 1, we have to express f of x in the form of this using stating the values of a and b. So pretty easy. Now as you can see, in this form we don't have any cos, so we have to change the cos into something else. Now we realize that cos square x is also equal to 1 minus sin square x. right? So from this we can do what? From this we realize we can say fx can be 5 sine square x plus 3 times cos square x, which is now we also know is equal to this value, right? We can just replace. That will be 5 sine square x plus 3 minus 3 sine square x. Now we can just simplify, so 5 minus 3 is 2, 2 sine square x plus 3. Now f of x is equal to this value, and by comparison you can see, let me rewrite this, that will be 3 plus 2 sine square x. Same thing. Now by comparing with the form that we need to show, a has to be this value and b has to be. So from this we can realize a has to be 3 and b has to be the value of 2. Now for part 2, hence means we have to use this value, find the values of x for which f of x equal to 7 sine x. So let's solve. So here we have f of x, which is 3 plus 2 sine square x is equal to 7 sine x. Let's rearrange. You will have 2 sine square x minus 7 sine x plus 3 have to be 0. Simplify. 2 sine x. This will be sine x as well. Here we have 3 times 1. Now to get minus 7 we have to have minus 6 and minus 1. So we have to realize that we have to multiply in this direction and then this, right? So 2 sine x times minus 3, that should be minus 6, and then minus 1, that should be minus 7. So simplify or solve. Sine x will be half and sine x will be the value of 3. Now let's move on with the questions. Now as you can see, sine is positive in both cases. We do realize that when sine is positive it will have to be in the first quadrant and in the second quadrant. This is your values of x directly, and that will be 180 minus x. So first one, x will be sine inverse of half, that should be 30 degrees, but also we have to find 180 minus 30, that should be 150. In this case, sine inverse of 3, that will not be possible. Invalid as your answer. Now the reason why is because sine x can only be between the value of minus 1 and 1. It cannot be more than this. So because of that it will not be possible. You can check as well. Sine inverse of 3, that will be error. So your values of x will be this and this. That will be part 2 of the question. Now for part 3 we have to state the range of f of x. So pretty easy. F of x, as we know, it is the value of a plus b sine square x, which is 3 plus 2 sine square x. Now again, as we know, this is a constant, it's never going to change. This is a multiple as well, it's not going to change. The only changing will be this one. Now we realize that sine x, as I have explained, it is between the value of minus 1 and 1. We have to know that. Now when you square something, it can no longer be negative, right? So sine square x will be between what? It will be between 1 and the value of 0, right? So this is the minimum value and the maximum value. So the range will be, let's first plug in the minimum value. That will be 3 plus sine of 0. So there will be 0 here. That will be, so at 0, that should be 2 times 0, sorry, and that should be 3. So this is the minimum value. And the maximum value is when this equal to 1. That should be 3. Sorry, this is not the right way to think about this. Let me write this. The minimum value is when sine square x is equal to 0. So we replace that will be 3 plus 2 times 0. That should be 3. And the maximum value is when this is equal to 1. That should be 3 plus 2 times 1. That should be 5. So the range is between those two. As you can see, the range, we can call this y, or f of x, is between the value of 3 and the value of 5. Okay, and that will be your question in relation to trigonometry and also a bit of functions. Now for this question, a curve have equation dy by dx. A curve is such that dy by dx is equal to this. Now we realize that by doing a lot of question, it is not easy to work with this. We always try to rearrange this as 6 4x minus 3 power minus half. I hope it makes sense, because we know that root is simply power half, and you'll bring something up, it will become negative power. Now P33 is a point on the curve, it is a passing point on the curve. Okay, great. Now for part 1, we have to find the equation of the normal to the curve at P, giving your answer in this form. Okay, now we understand that the normal, it is a straight line. For example, this is the normal. Call this n. Now to find the equation of a straight line, you have to find the gradient of the straight line. So we have to find the gradient of n, right? So how can we find this? So to find the gradient of n, we must first find the gradient of the tangent, because we understand that the normal and the tangent, they are at 90 degrees to each other because they have a relationship between them. That's why we can use this one to find this one. Now what is the gradient of tangent? It is simply dy by dx. So always remember this, gradient of tangent is dy by dx. It is equal to 6 over 4x minus 3. This is given to you. Now we have to find this at the value of x at the point P, at x equal to the value of 3. So P is x and y is 3 as given by the question. So replace, you will have 6 over 4 times 3 is 12 minus 3 is 9. So root of 9 is 3, right? That should be 2. Let's check. 4 times 3 minus 3, 9. Root of 9 will be 3. 6 divided by 3, that should be 2. Now this is the gradient of tangent, right? Now from this we derive the gradient of normal have to be the value of minus half. Now because of course we have to also know this, the gradient of normal multiplied by the gradient of tangent is equal to minus 1. So by using this knowledge we can derive this. Now we have the gradient, we have the passing point P. We can find the equation. This is my x value and the y value. So y minus 3 over x minus 3 has to be minus half. Now we have to cross multiply to see what happens. That will be 2y minus 6 minus x plus 3. That will be 2y equal to minus x plus 3 plus 6. So 2y has to be minus x plus 9. So y have to be minus x plus 9. So I guess we don't need to divide by 2 here because we have to rearrange in this form. Let me send x and y to one side. You will have x plus 2y is equal to 9. So this is shown as required. Now for part 2 of the question, we have to find the equation of the curve. So how would you find the equation of the curve? So pretty easy. We realize that this is actually the value of y. So we have to find the value of y, which is the equation of curve. Now you kind of have to, I would say just memorize this. When you have to find the equation of curve, it is simply asking you to find the value of y. So y will be what? It is integration of dy by dx. So we have to know this to find y. So let's do that. So integration of dy by dx will be 6 4x minus 3 power minus half with respect to dx. So 6 is only a multiple, will be outside. And first we have to increase the power by 1, that will be half, divided by the power. And then multiply by d by dx of the value inside, that should be 4. Simplify, that should be 2, that should be 3. So you have 3 root of 4x minus 3. Of course, plus c for the constant of integration. Now we have to find this. So right now we have y is equal to 3 4x minus 3 plus c. So we know we have a passing point of 3, 3. We can use that to find the value of c. So 3 here will be the value of 3 here. That will be 3. That will be 3. That should be 9 plus c. So 3 equal to 9 plus c. So c will be minus 6. So finally we conclude that y is equal to 3. That will be 4x minus 3 minus 6 as your equation of your curve, which is the value of y. And that will be a question. As you can see here, we have a bit of both of differentiation as well as, not really, we just have integration, because here we have dy by dx already. We didn't have to differentiate, and we just have to know this to solve this. So only a few knowledge here. We have to know this equation, which relates the normal to the tangent, and also we had to know how to integrate this term. Now let's move on to this question. The points A and B have position vectors this and this respectively. So which means OA is given to you by 1, 7, 2, and OB is given to you by -5, 5, and 6. Okay, now part 1, we have to use scalar product to find the angle AOB. So pretty easy. So that will be OA times OB. That will be magnitude of OA times magnitude of OB cos of the angle in between, which is angle O. So we have to use this formula to find the value of the angle. Now this is simple. OA is given to you 1, 7, 2. OB is -5, this. And this one will be what? Will be 1 plus 49 plus 4, that should be root of 54. That will be 25 plus 25 plus 36. That will be 86. And then what else do we have? That's it. We just have to simplify and solve for the value of O. So that will be dot product, scalar product. So 1 times -5 is -5 plus 35. So -5 plus 35 plus 12. Divide by this. And this is cos of the angle O. So solve. -5 plus 35 plus 12. Divide by root of 54 times root of 86. That will be 0.6163 cos of the angle. So the angle will be simply cos inverse of 0.6163. So cos inverse of the value should be 51.95. So here we have to give your answer correct to 3SF. That should be 52.0 degrees for your value of the angle. Here again I have to find the angle in radians. So my apologies. Cos inverse 0.6163. That should be radians. That will be 0.90676, which is 0.907. Correct to 3SF. Now let's move on to part 2 of the question. The point C is such that we have this equation. Find the unit vector in direction of OC. So let's first find OC, right? So here we have what? Let me separate those two. I have AB here. AB is given to you by OB minus, so let's find this first. AB is given to you by OB, which is this, minus OA. That'll be 1, 7, 2. So -5 minus 1 will be -6. 5 minus 7 will be -2. And that should be 4. So AB is given to you by this, which is -6 minus 2, 4. 2 times BC. BC is OC minus OB. OB is given to you by this, 5, 6. So again, you have to know these kind of, how to find those directions. For example, we have to know AB is equal to OB minus OA. You always take the second one first. So here we have B. That will be OB minus OA. Here we have, as you can see, we have BC. So again, the same idea. We take the second one first. So OC minus OB. Why is it this way? It is actually because of the diagram that we use. I think I've explained this in a previous video. If you guys want to search this on the channel, you can search vectors and you will find a video explaining why AB is equal to OB minus OA. It is simplified. You have to explain, but it's pretty easy as well. But the main idea is that when you have to find this, look at the first, or you have to look at the second one and write this and this. This is the idea behind this, for you to know this, to know how to do this fastly, so you don't have to waste your time in this case. Now let me solve this. You have to divide by 2. That will be -3 minus 1, 2. Now again, the reason why I'm going on with this is because I get this question all the time. Why is this in this way? You have to know, okay? Now so that will be 0. So OC minus this, this, and this. So OC will be what? Simply send this over here, will be -3 minus 1, 2 plus -5, 5, 6. That will be what? So -3 minus 5 will be -8, minus 1 minus, so plus 5 will be 4, 2 plus 6 will be 8. So OC is found to be this vector. Now we have to find the unit vector in the direction of OC, so pretty easy. So we also have to find the magnitude of OC. That will be pretty, we have to find this 64, which is 8 square, plus 4 square is 16, and 8 square will be 64 as well. Now again, minus 8 square is the same thing, right? It will be 64. 64 plus 60, 16 plus 64, that should be root of 144, and that should be 12. Let's check. That is 12. So finally, OC, or the unit vector in direction of OC, will be minus 848 divided by the value of 12. That should be, you can divide by 4, you will have 1 over 3 multiplied by minus 2, and you have 1 and 2. That will be the unit vector in direction of OC. And that will be a question in relation to vectors for this paper. Let's move on to this question. So here we have the function f of x is equal to 2x minus a. Now where a is a constant that we need to find, I think. Now x is defined for all real values, so ax can take any values. Now part 1, in the case where a is 3, which means f of x have to be 2x minus 3, we have to solve this equation. So let's do that. So here we have f of x, which means it is 2 f of x minus 3 is equal to 11. So 2 times f of x is equal to 2x minus 3. That have to be 14. So 2x minus 3 have to be 7. 2x will be 10. X will be the value of 5. This is part 1 of the question. Now for part 2, the function g of x is equal to this, defined for x can take any real values, so pretty good. Now first thing we realize, the shape of this graph is this shape, because the coefficient of x squared is 1, it is positive, we know it will have a minimum shape. Okay, and if it was negative, it will have a maximum shape. Right, that's something we can kind of realize at the back of our mind. Right, now let's move on. Part 2, find the value of a, for which the equation this and this has exactly one real root. So pretty easy. F of x is what? F of x is given to you by 2x minus a is equal to g of x is x squared minus 6a. Now let's rearrange. Let's send everything to one side. You will have this minus 6 plus 2. So minus 6 minus 2, send this over here. That will be minus 8. And plus a have to be 0. So a is 1. Not a, sorry. You know what I mean, right? This is 1. B is minus 8. And c is equal to a. Now, because we have to show, we know that it has exactly one real root, it means b squared minus 4ac has to be equal to 0. That's what it means. So again, this means this. So we know this, we can just replace the value here. You will have minus 8 squared will be 64, minus 4 times 1 is 4, times this will be 4a, is 0. So a will be 64 divided by 4. 16. That will be the value of a right here. Now for part 3, the function h, this is defined for domain of x more than 3. Good to know. So it means that h is only defined when x is more than 3. Now you realize that this and this are the same equation. But anyways, first thing first, express this in the form of this. So pretty easy. We have this. Because it is 1 here, I can proceed to the next step. So I have to add something. That will be 6 here, the value, divided by 2 square. Now when I add something, I also have to minus the same value, so I don't change my equation. That will be what? Now I can factorize. Here we have x, here we have minus, here we have 3, here we have square, here we have minus, so 3 squared will be 9. So this in this form will be simply this. Right. Now moving on to this question, we have what? Part 3. We have to find an expression for h inverse of x and state the domain of this. So let's see, what do we have? So expression in terms of this. So first we have to let y equal to h of x, which is this. Send this over here will be y plus 9 is x minus 3 squared. X minus 3 should be plus minus y plus 9, which is x have to be 3 plus minus y plus 9. Now moving on, it means that x can only be 3 plus root of y plus 9. So finally, so the reason why it's plus is because you can see here it is only more than 3. It cannot be less than 3. From this, I can have h inverse, it is in terms of x, I have to change, that will be 3 plus x plus 9. That will be my answer for part 4 of the question. Now again, I have to also state the domain of h inverse. Now realize that domain of h inverse is the same thing as a range of h. Now we know the domain of h is given to you by x more or equal to 3. Now we have to look at the shape of h to know the range. The shape of this is what? If you realize, it is simply from this point, it goes up. The range is the value of y. As you can see, the range of h has to be more than this value. So what is this value here? By doing this, we realize this is minus 9. This is the minimum point of the curve for this domain, right? So this is the minimum value. As you can see, the range will be more, always more equal to the minus 9. So because we know the range of h, we can find the domain of this. Domain is defined by x. X have to be more than equal to minus 9. So this is your answer. Again, let me recap. Pretty easy. To find the inverse or the domain of h inverse, we understand that domain of h inverse is equal to the range of h. Now, to find the range of h, we have to look at the graph of h. The graph of h is what? We realize it is a minimum curve. However, here is only defined for x is more than 3. Now, we realize there's a reason why they made you do all this. So we have to use this. We understand this helps us to know the shape of the graph exactly of the points. The point P here is 3. Sorry, the value of P is 3. And the value of Q is minus 9 or 9. You can see here minus 9, right? Now we understand that the value at the end will be the stationary value or the minimum or the maximum y value. In this case, it is a minimum curve. So this will have to be the minimum y value. Okay, and this happens when this equal to 0, so x equal to 3. The value of y will be minus 9. Now by knowing this, I know that my curve looks something like this, for example, and so this is not right, so because it's supposed to be lower, right? Something like this. For example, it should be minus 9, and this is when the value is 3. So as you can see, the range of h is always going to be more than or equal to 9. So the range is y more than equal to 9. This is the range of h. Now, as you can see, we have defined that domain of h inverse is equal to range of h. Now, the range is defined by y is more than 9. However, if you want to define domain, you have to write x. So x will have to be more than or equal to 9. So this will be your answer for the last part of this question, which refers to the chapter of functions. So in this question, the curve have equation y equal to x squared plus 2 over x. So the first thing I can do is I can rewrite this as y equal to x squared plus 2x minus 1. Okay, now part 1, write down the expression for dy by dx and this. So first one, let's write dy by dx. So dy by dx will be simply 2x minus 2 over x squared, right? And then d2y by dx2, so d2y by dx2, that will be what? That will be 2. And this can also be written as what? This can be written as 2x minus 2, this. So multiply by the power will be plus 4, and minus 1 will be minus 3. That should be 2 plus 4 over x power 3. This is part 1 of the question. Now part 2, we have to find the points of the stationary point on the curve and find its nature. So pretty easy. This happens when dy by dx is equal to 0. So equate, that will be 2x minus 2 over x squared is equal to 0. That is part 2 of the question. At the stationary point, dy by dx is equal to 0. Now, let me send this over here. You will have 2x is equal to 2 over x squared. Cross multiply, you will have 2x cubed is equal to 2. X cubed is equal to 1, so x have to be 1. Now, When x equal to 1, what is the y value? The y value will be replaced back in here. You will have 1 plus 2 over 1. That should be 3. So the point is 1, 3 for the stationary point. Now moving on, we have to find its nature. To find its nature, we have to use this one. So d2y by dx2 at the point where x equal to 1, right? This is the x value. Replace, you have 2 plus 4 over 1, that should be 6. Now because it is a positive value, we realize it will be a minimum point or minimum value. So because of that, right? That's question part 2. Now for part 3, we have to find the volume of the solid formed when the region enclosed by the curve, the x-axis, and the line this and this is rotated by the x-axis. Now again, we have to know rotation about the x-axis is always going to be, the formula is pi y squared with respect to dx. So in this case, let me find some space over here to complete the last question. So for example, we know that y is the equation of the curve, which is x squared plus 2 over x. Now we want to find the volume about the x-axis. So we know that about the x-axis, there's only one thing we can do, is using the formula, which is the volume have to be pi multiplied by y squared with respect to dx. So we know y. We have to find y squared, right? So let's find y squared. Y squared will be what? X squared plus 2 over x square this value. That should be x power 4 plus 4. So here you'll have 2 times this times this. That will be 4 over x times x squared, and then plus 4 over x squared. That should be cancelled out. As you can see, that will give you x power 4 plus 4x plus 4x power minus 2. This will be y squared. Replace back in the main equation. You will have volume will be pi integration. The limits has been given to you. It is the values of x between 2 and 1, right? So you have x power 4 plus 4x plus 4x power 2 with respect to dx. So step by step now, pretty easy. That should be pi is pi outside. Here we have x power 5 over 5, 4x squared over 2, and then you have to plus 4x power minus 1 over minus 1. Limits to 1. Simplify, pi is pi. So first replace 2, you will have 32 over 5. Let's see. 2 power 5 is 32, yeah. And then this will be obviously 2x. So 2 times 4 is 8. Here we have minus 4 over x, so minus 4 over 2. That's the first part, and then minus when x equal to 1, that should be 1 over 5 plus 2 minus 4 over 1. So let's see what do we have. So 32 over the value of 5 plus 8 minus 2, that should be 12, 2 over 5 minus, here we have 1 over 5 plus 2 minus 4. Be minus 1 4/5. So 12 over 2 over 5 plus 1 over 4 over 5. That will be 14 and 1/5. Volume will be this times this, units cube for the volume of the shape that we are trying to find. And this is the last question of this paper. I hope this is somewhat helpful. As always, thank you for watching. I will see you soon.